Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very senior professional from the world of technology and human resources from Leicestershire, UK, Mr. Marc Rowley. Marc, welcome to the show.
And thank you very much for having me on. I do appreciate it.
Thank you. Marc is the managing director and founder of H.I.T Leadership. H.I.T with an H full stop, I full stop, T full stop. So, Marc, before we start talking about H.I.T Leadership, my first question is what first drew you into the world of IT and service management?
It's a great question. I get asked that quite a bit. I'm actually dyslexic. So I have problems with particular words.
Mhm.
And when in the 1990s, I realized I started getting into IT.
Mhm.
I realized spell checker and
Mhm.
Grammarly were my way forward as a
Mhm.
dyslexic person. I
Right.
also found it really fascinating. I find IT extremely fascinating. So getting into there earlier age,
Mhm.
and yeah, you using that to actually help my dyslexic
Mhm.
nature as well.
And after so many years in the corporate world, what inspired you to launch H.I.T Leadership? And tell me a little bit about H.I.T Leadership and what does it stand for?
Not a problem. So HIT actually stands for honesty, integrity, and transparency.
Ah, okay.
So they are my personal and my business values
Mm.
that I have. And the reason why I've come out of the corporate world is that I've seen the best kind of leadership and I've seen the worst kind of leadership.
Absolutely.
I'm also a qualified counselor and I help people with stress, anxiety, and trauma.
Hmm.
And I've seen a lot of people with burnout, with stress, who've gone off, and due to the kind of leaders that were there.
Hmm.
And so and also companies lose productivity, they lose revenue by the way the company is led and managed. And I
Right.
came out of corporate life to help to help companies get the best version, be the best version of themselves, but get the most out of their employees without losing them. It's
Right.
so important, so important.
Absolutely. And you know, when I was reading about you, I was fascinated to read about the 6 P's of productivity. Can you talk to me a little bit about each of the P's and how they work together? And if possible, give me an example.
Yeah, definitely. So the 6 P's I put together thinking about what's the best ways I could help a company increase their productivity and
Hmm.
their profit. So if we're talking about the first P is positivity.
Hmm.
Now this is the psychological power of optimism.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've ever noticed how a positive mindset can actually make even the most challenging task feel manageable.
absolutely.
And that's the power of positivity. And
Mm.
when you approach your work with an optimistic outlook, you're more likely to think creatively
Yeah.
and problem solve effectively and maintain motivation in the face of setbacks. I think that's really key.
Mm.
I won actually. I've got a trophy just here, which was the power of positivity. I got
Amazing.
that in 2020.
Wow.
Um, the next P
Mm.
is people, and
Mm.
this is leadership and employee engagement.
Yeah.
And for me, that's the heart of it. Every successful organization is
Mm.
its people, and effective leadership and employee engagement are really the cornerstone of a productive workforce. So when leaders inspire, support, and empower their teams,
Mm.
employees are more likely to feel valued, motivated, and committed to the
Mm.
work. Um, I have a good line of people that I've led over the last 30 years who are a testament to that as well.
Mm.
And I think as well, engaged employees are not only more productive, but they also tend to be more creative and
Right.
collaborative and
Right.
also loyal to the organization. So they will
Mm.
sell the organization for you as well.
Correct. Correct.
The third P is products. And
Hmm.
this is about delivering value to customers at the end of the day. If you don't have customers, you don't have a business. If you don't have employees, you don't have a business. But your
Great.
products or services are the lifeblood of your organization.
Mm,
And to be truly productive, you must focus on delivering value to your customers consistently.
mm,
This is, I think you'll understand this as well. This means understanding their needs, preferences, pain points, and continuously innovating to meet and exceed. And I underline that in any conversation I have, exceed their expectations.
yeah.
Um, the fourth P
Mm,
is partners. So this is leveraging your suppliers
mm,
and your customers for growth. So
mm,
no organization exists in a vacuum, does it? And yet your productivity is inherently linked to the performance of your suppliers and the satisfaction of your customers. So by nurturing those strong partnerships with these key stakeholders, you can really optimize your supply chain and ensure timely delivery of goods and services and gather valuable feedback to drive continuous improvement. I
mm,
always say feedback is a gift. We need feedback to grow, and
mm.
our customers are the right people in the right place to provide that.
Absolutely.
I think
Absolutely.
the fifth P
Yeah.
is processes, and this is
Hmm.
streamlining operations for efficiency.
Yeah.
So efficient processes are the backbone of a productive organization.
Mm,
And by streamlining your operations, you eliminate redundancies and leveraging technology, you can minimize waste, reduce costs, and improve output quality. And I think that's
mm,
a lot of processes I've seen have been put in place and never looked at again. So really having someone look at that is really, really key.
mm,
And the last P
mm.
is perseverance.
Ah, yes.
And perseverance is about building mental resilience for long-term success. Because
Correct.
the path to productivity is rarely smooth. There's going to
Mm,
be setbacks, there's going to be challenges, and failures are inevitable. And this
mm.
is where perseverance comes in. Because by cultivating mental resilience, you and your
Mm.
teams can bounce back from
Yeah.
adversity, adapt to change, and maintain focus on the goals. And I think that, and it's like it creates a growth mindset as well.
Mm, mm.
For me,
Amazing.
that's so important.
You know, these six P's are so important. I was just thinking, when I was finishing business school and later on, we'd already heard of the four P's of marketing. They became five P's, then became six P's. But this is the first time I've heard the six P's of productivity. And just for my viewers and listeners, I'm going to read them out again: positivity, people, product, partners, processes, and perseverance. Thank you, Mark, for sharing
Absolutely.
these six P's. Thank you.
You're
My next,
welcome.
my next question is that, you also talk about reactive leadership and proactive people-centered culture. How can companies shift from a reactive leadership to a more proactive and a people-centered culture?
I think they need to really stop treating leadership like a crisis
Hmm,
response team.
hmm,
Because like too many managers are just putting out fires.
hmm,
And what I do is I teach leaders to plan for people, not just for performance. And that means regular one-to-ones, coaching check-ins, listening posts, and
hmm,
team health reviews. Um, and that shift must be measured as well. So people focus KPIs, they include employee net promoter scores,
hmm,
psychological safety ratings, coaching conversations completed, internal
hmm,
promotion rates, burnout risk assessments.
hmm,
I think in one client case, we introduced a well-being to work ratio, which measures tasks done versus mental health days taken. And it gave them early warning signs of team stress and reduced absenteeism by about 18% a year. It was
hmm,
very, very successful.
hmm. Amazing. But based on all the work that you do, Mark, why do you think employee disengagement is such a big problem in IT firms today?
I think in IT firms, disengagement is it's often the byproduct of relentless deadlines, poor communication, and leadership that values delivery more than development.
Hmm.
one senior development I coached recently said it's like being a cog in a machine. You deliver code and that's it. No
Mm,
one asks how you are. And that mindset breeds quiet quitting. So when firms overlook the human behind the keyboard, motivation stops. People
mm,
don't burn out from hard work, they burn out from feeling unseen.
mm,
I think disengagement isn't just emotional, it hits the bottom line because
correct.
studies show disengagement staff are 37% more likely to miss work and 60% more likely to make errors. And twice as likely to leave. And in today's world, where the whole point of having those experienced and knowledgeable people, especially in IT, is
Mm,
about keeping those people.
amazing.
And it's incredible how people, IT firms, don't realize that.
Absolutely. My next question, Mark, is what does great IT leadership look like in today's hybrid and fast-paced environment?
That's a great question, and it's actually something I teach at the university. I teach a master's degree in
Mm,
leadership and management, and we teach this. And it's someone who can lead through the screen just as well in person.
mm,
So they make time to talk behind the task list. They balance empathy
mm,
with expectation. So a CTO I worked with used to run weekly tech downtowns
mhm,
and bi-weekly coffee chats. So no agenda, just a safe space to talk. And that
mm,
created a culture where junior developers felt safe to speak up
mm,
and innovation was created. So great IT leaders
mm,
now need clarity, consistency, and visibility.
mm,
They need to show up, they communicate change before it hits.
mm.
No surprises because as human beings, we don't like change
Yeah.
thrown at us. And they manage the energy, not just the task. I think that's
Mm,
crucial.
absolutely. Well said. And how
Thank you.
how do you help leaders become more self-aware and emotionally intelligent?
Yes, so self-awareness starts by holding up a mirror to ourselves.
Mm,
We use behavioral diagnostics like uh, DISC or insights and emotional inventory as well, combined with 360 feedback. But sometimes data isn't enough. You've got quantitative data, you've got qualitative data.
mm,
So we pair it with coaching what that targets belief systems and triggers as well.
mhm,
And as someone who is I find psychology and neuroscience fascinating. So
mm,
we help leaders reframe how they view stress and failure as well. For example, teaching them about neuroplasticity, the
mm,
brain's ability to rewire. It helps them shift from a fixed mindset, like I'm not good at this, to a growth mindset. I'm learning how to improve this. And that helps because I had one leader I worked with who couldn't handle conflict through just couldn't handle conflict
yeah.
at all. Through our sessions, he learned how his amygdala hijacked responses cause
Mm,
shutdowns in meetings. We trained
mm,
him his pause response so he could choose
amazing.
curiosity over
Mm,
defense.
amazing. And
Thank
what,
you.
in your view, is the role of soft skills to drive measurable business outcomes like profit margins and client retention?
Yes, I think I prefer to call them as human skills. Soft
Mm,
skills, there's a change happening, I believe, in how people see them. Soft skills are traditionally listening, coaching, emotional regulation,
right.
clarity and communication,
Yeah.
influence without authority, and conflict navigation. And soft skills reduce friction. They mean fewer miscommunications, faster conflict resolution, and
Mm,
tighter client relationships. I think all this improves retention
mm,
of staff and customers, and that's actually measurable. In one
right.
IT firm, we train team leads to to invoke empathy within their communication, and with 6 months, their client satisfaction scores jumped up
Mhm,
because the clients felt listened to, they got understood,
mm,
and their rebook rates improved by over 15%, which was
mm.
phenomenal. So yeah, soft skills there, a lot to say for, and I'd highly recommend all leaders look at those.
Fascinating.
And
You
soft
also,
skills doesn't mean you're not hard either. Sorry
no, go
to
ahead,
but
please go ahead.
Having soft skills doesn't mean you can't be assertive.
Yeah.
Okay, assertiveness does not mean shouting and
Mm.
being angry. Soft skills are there. Even the FBI are using different tactics now to talk to people.
Yeah.
Kindness works,
Correct.
and soft skills are there.
Absolutely. You
Thank
also
you.
speak about mental resilience quite often. Why is this so essential in IT leadership today?
Well, IT leaders, they face constant disruption. So
Mm.
tech shifts, talent churn, security threats.
Mm.
Resilience isn't about grinding through, it's about flexibility under
Mm.
pressure. And stressing leaders often show us irritability, over control, so micromanaging,
Mm.
tunnel vision,
Mm.
or even silence, because it kills creativity and causes decision paralysis.
Mm.
And teams pick up on it fast. Mirror neurons don't lie.
Mm.
You can
Mm.
see it in people.
Absolutely.
And if the leaders are stressed, the team become reactive and not
Correct.
reactive. So it's it being aware of it. I personally I use breath work, pacing, sleep recovery
Mm.
methods to regulate pressure.
Yeah.
I mean, one CIO I worked with went from 3 hours of sleep and daily migraines to leading transformation without burnout, and that was just
Mm.
beautiful to
Wow.
see. And I think just by learning how to pace your mental load and
Yeah.
say no as
Yeah.
well is
Yeah. Yeah.
important.
And you're so right. Breathing is such an important part of
Yes.
being able to manage a lot of the stresses that we go through. Yes.
Absolutely. You think you do it, but you can do it better.
Correct. 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 What, in your view, are some of the biggest cultural and operational challenges that are likely to face IT firms in the next few years?
Okay, I've thought about this for a while. So culturally, it's retention,
Mm.
especially women, neurodiverse employees, and mid-level talent.
Mm.
So hybrid working without culture designs leads to isolation and drift. So that's one thing we need to think about.
Mm.
Operationally, the big threat is AI overreach, replacing too fast without preparing people. Change is inevitable within IT, but we need to be careful how we do that and we roll
Yeah.
that out. There's also decision fatigue, so leaders can get overwhelmed. Middle managers can sometimes be unclear where autonomy ends,
Mm.
and clarity of roles and governance and people politics must really evolve in line with tech, not 6 months later. It needs to be planned
Yeah.
properly using business change management to do that properly.
Mm. Mm. Well
I
said.
believe.
Well, I agree. I agree. I have time for three more questions for you, Mark.
Okay.
How can organizations future-proof themselves while addressing day-to-day operational needs?
Um, they need to adapt capacity in leadership. I mean, this means embedding agile thinking beyond
Yeah.
product teams,
Mm.
giving managers the tools to lead change conversations weekly, not annually. Cross training staff to reduce single points of failure is key. I've seen so many single points of failure and they leave, you have problems. Delegating decision making upwards, downwards, and sidewards. So delegation should be 360. The one global IT firm I worked with ran change sprints alongside their usual delivery cycle. So each sprint tackled one friction point, either cultural systems or communication.
Mm.
And in 12 months, they were faster, leaner, and had better engagement scores ever. I think the key is to stop treating operations and changes as separate worlds. They are one.
Mm. Next question for you is what does successful transformation look like? And how do you know when you've got it right?
I think you know when transformation is stuck, when
Hmm.
people stop asking permission to improve things.
Hmm.
It
Hmm.
became because that becomes like a default behavior.
Correct.
I mean, transformation isn't just about rolling out tech, is it? It's
Hmm.
it's about shifting beliefs and habits and structures. And that's where business change management matters.
Mm.
And without it, people revert back to old ways of thinking and working.
Mm.
We use a blend of stakeholder mapping, readiness assessments, and coaching, and process redesign to build lasting change. And I think that's key,
Mm.
because worked with one software company. We delayed their systems rollout by 6 weeks to do culture groundwork, like team values, leadership alignment, and feedback systems, and they hit every post-launch target with half the disruption forecast. That is how good business change management is. I'd highly recommend all organizations to have that in separate to operations, but part of the whole business. It's so
Mm.
important.
Fascinating. And my last question for you, Mark, and this is for you
Yes.
personally, given all
Okay.
the experience you have had as a leader in running and in building and running hit leadership, as you look back at your own life, what is one leadership lesson you wish you had learned earlier in your career?
Okay. I think lead like you're replaceable. So
Mm.
train others, trust widely,
Yeah,
and build something that outlasts you. I, I think, yeah, you lead like you're replaceable.
amazing. And this is so true. I remember when I started working, and I would ask after 2, 3 years, how do I get my next promotion? The advice that I got from some of my colleagues who were, British, from British American Tobacco, they said, "How quickly can you make yourself redundant? The moment you make yourself redundant, you're ready for a bigger job." But
That's it. Yeah.
absolutely, it's exactly what you said to me. But on that note, Mark, I just want to say, what an amazing conversation this has been about honesty, integrity, and transparency leadership or hit leadership. I think we covered some very fascinating ground on the 6 P's of productivity. We spoke about reactive leadership. We talked about leadership in today's hybrid and fast paced world. We also spoke about being more self aware, about soft skills, and about mental resilience. Thank you for speaking to me, and good luck to you.
It's been a wonderful and a pleasure. Thank you very much for your time. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.